Okay, guys, so last week we were talking about how we make the face and how we focus on the eyes and everything and how it breaks down. So right now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start out and just kind of draw out the same thing that we did last week. Get it all drawn out. Real quick, just so that way you guys have a bit of a refresher of what we did last week and how it all kind of came together. So again, I'm still focusing on where the eyes are, where the brow is, how the head kind of comes up, and how we can finish off the back of the head, how we have that shape down at the bottom, where the placement of the mouth is, and then we're going to come down for the front of the face as well. So, as of right now, this is kind of what we were focusing on last week. Went ahead and got everything in. It didn't take too long. Just had to plow through everything and make sure that we're kind of all sitting in the right measurements for everything. So the first one, second one, third one, just like we had last week. So we're right above eye level, maybe right at the very bottom of the nose and the very bottom of the chin. So I started out just like I did last week, where I started out with the circle, then the center of the line, then brought down the chin, brought in the eyes, had everything come down to the bottom. You guys remember all that. So just wanted to get through that real quick. So what we're going to be working on today is how to finish this off. So right now, we've got part of the brow, how it kind of comes back up. Comes around, how we all have all that kind of stuff. So what we want to focus on next is the nose, because it's the next biggest thing that we're missing. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a trapezoid. So if you're looking at the face from the very front, what will happen is you have the eyes and everything. We've got this part of the nose. We'll have the mouth down here. What we're going to be doing is creating a shape like this. And when you look at it from an angle, it'll look kind of like this. And this is what we are drawing right here. So that is what we just drew out right here. And what we want to focus on is that we have the bottom of the nose right where it needs to be. So right now, what you want to do is, the basic idea is, if you had hair on this as well, the nose, the very tip of the nose should be halfway from the top and from the hairline. So on this, we're going to shoot for about that 2-3 mark over here. So if you look, right there is almost lined up with right there. So from there, what you can do is you can take this from the outside edge. We're going to connect here down to the nose. We can do it on both sides. And if you look now, what is happening is our nose is at a wrong angle. So I'm actually going to bring it down like this. So instead, Gonna kind of bring it out like that. So that way, as the nose comes down the face, it actually opens up slightly. And then we'll taper back at the bottom. So from here, you can see even here, it'll taper out just a little bit. So this line and this line, and this line and this line are a little bit different sizes. So it should always taper up. So as you move up the nose, it will taper. And the reason for that is because right around here, what we're also going to be doing is adding in the nostrils to there. So this will always be wider than right up here, because it includes more information down here than up here. So from here, what we can do is if you take a straight line and go up and down, right there will be the very corner of the eye socket. So if we go down to the bottom here, right there will be the very beginning of the eye. We can do that on both sides when you're drawing it from head on. And you guys don't have to worry about drawing it from head on right now. Right now, what we're just going to be focusing on is this 3/4 view. So we can assume, because this one ends over here, what's going to happen is it will be behind the nose over here. So we don't have to worry about putting in another set of lines over here. We will get, just that we know that knowledge. But another thing that'll happen is if you bring them all the way down, starting to see how even on here, they're starting to match up with the mouth. So if we go a little bit farther out and come down, you can start to see that if we take there, and here, you start to see where the mouth will end up as well. So when we draw an eye, what we want to do is we want to draw it bigger than you guys think. And you want to have it have a lot of angles. What'll happen a lot of time is people will draw eyes like this and then put a circle and then another circle. And what happens is you get the deer in the headlights look where there's white on both sides of the eye. We want to avoid that. So first thing we're going to do is start by cutting in angles. And the first one we're going to look at is the angle that the eyelid itself comes in. So if you look at that, that will be like the very top up here. And the more tired they get, the farther it comes down. And that flap of skin is actually the eyelid that we're going to be drawing right here. So let's say a bit awake, nice open eye. And what we're going to do from there is also just focus on the bottom two edges, because this will be the very top edge of the bottom eyelid. So when an eye closes, not only does it kind of pull down this way, but it just very so slightly comes up from the bottom over here. So when we draw the eye, what we want to do is just have an angle here, have it come back and drop down. Over here, it will kind of move back up this way. So we'll have an angle down here, one right here, and one right here. But if we do that on the opposite side, you have to remember we're not going to be able to see this very corner. So we're just going to start it by coming up. We're going to keep it level, the other one, and drop it back. If you look at what I'm doing, I'm trying to keep these 2 points on that nice center line that we have for the 1 to 2 line. Trying to keep it nice and center there, because otherwise what will happen is your eyes will actually drop down from one another. So that's all we need in terms of eyes. mind you, we still have the edge of the head here, comes back. So we still have all the bones and everything that's in the head. So what happens is if we start getting too much into the details of the eyes, the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by choosing like which edges you want to see. So as I get farther into this part of the drawing, what I'm doing is I'm moving farther out and cleaning up some of the other lines I have. So as I'm going around, I'm also making sure that some of these other ones are cleaned up, because now I have more reference lines to actually make details. And one thing I'm doing is I'm also weighting this side of the head. So if you look, I'm putting more of an edge over here than I am, let's say, like right here. And the reason for that is because I want the outside edge line to have more definition than, let's say, these ones over here for the jawline. And the reason why is because as you get farther into a drawing, it will actually make it so a lot of these little measuring lines that we do disappear with time. So what you want to do now is, if you want to find the edges of the mouth, let's say if we put crosses in for about where the center of the eyes are, if we bring those straight down, that'll be where the edges of the mouth are. So from there, you can create a small V in the very center line of the face, which we still have here. If you bring in a small V there, you can drop it straight down to those two edges. And then if you go just past, if we put a straight line going between, if you go just past there, create another V, then drop it back, you now have an upper lip. And all I'm doing to finish these, I'm not actually coming to like a hard point. What I'm doing is I'm coming back and I'm actually putting small little just like end lines on. And the reason why is because nothing in the face, nothing in nature will naturally come to a point. So one thing to think about is, if you think of a leaf, most people will think about it like this, where it has a nice hard point. But in reality, what will happen is it will kind of round out like this. And the reason why is because nature will always try and break off points. So even though it has a nice rounded edge, as it grows out, it'll want to keep growing out from the center here. So as it gets bigger, it has more room to grow rather than to break. So it's actually easier to have little edges here, so that way your mouth doesn't tear or anything like that. So nature will always try and make things less sharp. Clean that up just a little bit more. So that's kind of what's going on there. So comes to the drawing, we want to think about those non-sharp edges. So even like the back of the eyes right here, what we can do is we can just put little tiny edges. But again, that'll come in later when we get to there. When it comes to the bottom of the lip, the easiest way to do it is about halfway, put a straight line, then connect it back to those same small edge lines that we have. And right now we have lips. So from here, we can go ahead, find the edge of the face. And one thing that'll happen is now we have to think about the chin. So the bottom of the lip will actually protrude from the face a bit. So if we look at it from the side, we've got face like this. The chin kind of sticks out like this. Then the bottom lip will kind of be shaped like this. So it cuts back in this way. Then the chin jets out this way. The upper lip is right here, and it will slope back this way. The nose, the face, and one way to think about it is it's basically making a giant zigzag. So back, in, back, in, back, in. And every time it does that, what it's doing is it's giving you a step. And that step is something that you can draw off of. So as you get farther into the drawing, you can use those as markers for later. So there's the upper lip. And what I'm doing now is I'm using those as references for also where to shade. So as you get farther and farther into a drawing, the more information you have here, the better off you'll be. So right now, what I'm doing is I am actually going to create a bit of a shelf where right here, that lip cuts back before it cuts into the chin. And now I'm opening it up to that flat spot that we started with. I'm having it open up just a bit for that chin. And if you look right here, it kind of cuts back and forth, just like it cuts back and forth. So we've got the straight line here, we got the straight line down to the chin, then we have a little vertical and the flat of the chin. So as of right now, I'm going a bit fast, mostly because that's about as far as I'd ever want you guys to go. We've gotten through most of the head. We have the cheekbone over here that drops back. We got the top of the bone up here. This all comes down to the bottom of the chin. And you're starting to see how, as we're cutting stuff in more and more, you're starting to see how this line interacts with this line. And if we go around the nose to the edges of the mouth, then back down to the chin, you're getting even more measuring points. So if I go from the corner of the mouth down to the bottom of the chin, that gives me this angle right here of where the skin stretches between the corner of the mouth and the chin, rather than from the corner of the cheek down to the chin. So this is actually behind here. So this line is in front of this line. So that's why that overlaps the way it does. And so if we were to look at it from the front, it would kind of do this. You see how right here it slopes down, then goes back up, then becomes part of the chin. That back and forth is again this same one that we have in here. So it's all points of how the skin stretches between reference points. So that is a couple different views of how we are all drawing the same head. So this one's a side view, this one's a front view, and the one that we've been working on is a 3/4 view. So it's all the same idea, it's all just different views of the same object. So if we get in a bit closer, this is about as far as I'd ever need you guys to go. But if you guys want to learn a bit more, we can work on that on a different week. As of right now, what I would like to work on from this point on is working on the speed of drawing. So we're going to move into some different stuff next week, but as of right now, this is all we need. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed.